Hello, Louisiana. I'm Kerry Martin, and this is the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast for Tuesday, October 1st of 2019.
Welcome to the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast, a look at the latest news in Louisiana agriculture. Now, here's the host of the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast, Kerry Martin.
Louisiana farmers have had a tough year this year with all the weather issues, and Northwest Louisiana farmers are no exception. We'll head up to that corner of the state to visit with Ryan Kirby. He farms corn, soybeans, cotton, and rice. We'll get an update from Ryan coming up later in the podcast. But first, here's a look at news headlines. It's been a good week so far for the corn and soybean markets, following Monday's USDA grain stocks report, which sent the market sharply higher. Gary Crawford has more from Washington.
Monday's USDA stocks report shows smaller year-end stocks of corn and soybeans than most people expected.
Of course, this is going to be bullish.
And it has been. USDA's Deputy Chief Economist Warren Preston, after the report came out, corn futures up 4 to 11 cents, beans 13 to 17 cents. Now for corn, USDA has year-ending stocks September 1st at 2.1 billion bushels.
Well below the lowest of the low industry estimates.
And what's behind that?
With corn, it looks like it's a disappearance story.
Use of corn during the summer quarter, just over 3 billion bushels. Now, yes, that is
down 2% from last year, but it's still the second largest June to August disappearance on record.
Now, for soybeans, we have record large stocks, 913 million bushels, more than double this time a year ago, but still
it's well below what industry was anticipating.
Partly because use is stronger than expected, but also USDA reassessed the 2018 soybean crop, taking it down by 116 million bushels. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue tells dairy farmers he's optimistic Congress will pass the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Speaking at World Dairy Expo in Madison, Wisconsin today, Perdue recognized distractions over the last few days, but says he'll trust that work will continue to reach the finish line.
Obviously, Congress must ratify that, and I'm trusting that the Speaker can bring it to the floor of the House very quickly to be ratified. My estimation from traveling to Democratic and Republican districts across the country is it would be really gain a majority of both caucuses. I think people understand it's that popular.
Meanwhile, the mood remains mixed in Washington. Democrats say work will continue on USMCA, despite the fact that the Trump administration is saying the impeachment inquiry by the House of Representatives has destroyed any chance of legislative progress. Favorable weather conditions allowed Louisiana soybean harvest to make very good progress last week, according to the latest Louisiana Crop Progress and Condition report released yesterday. The report shows soybean harvest now 68% complete statewide. That is slightly behind the 5-year average pace of 74%. Sweet potato harvest now 1/3 done, 33% of the crop out of the field. That again is slightly behind the 43% 5-year average pace. Cotton harvest at the same mark as sweet potatoes. We're 1/3 done on the cotton crop, 33% of the crop now harvested, 94% of the cotton has open bolls. And we're just getting sugarcane harvest underway, 5% of the cane crop now harvested here in Louisiana. As far as crop condition ratings shape up, here's how some of the numbers look. Sugarcane ratings, 8% excellent, 55% good, 32% fair, and 5% poor to very poor. Cotton, 12% excellent, 62% good, 26% fair, and none in the poor or very poor categories. Sweet potatoes show none in the excellent category, 71% good, 29% fair, and none rated poor to very poor. And finally, pasture conditions here in our state, 3% excellent, 40% good, 39% fair, and 18% of the pastures in Louisiana rated poor to very poor. That is a look at some of the latest news headlines in Louisiana agriculture. Remember, you can always check our website, voiceoflouisianaagriculture.com. We update it every weekday with all the latest news and happenings in our state's agricultural industry. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to our daily e-newsletter. There's a button right in the middle of the home page. It says click here to receive our daily news update. click on that button, fill out your name and email address, and we'll send the Daily Voice e-newsletter right to your inbox every weekday morning at 5 a.m.
Now let's look at the markets on the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast.
Grayson Close is a grain marketing specialist with the Louisiana Farm Bureau Marketing Association. And Grayson, it looks like we're seeing higher prices again today in both corn and soybeans.
Yeah, it's good to see a little green on the board after all the red we've been looking at the past couple of weeks. USDA stocks report showing bean stocks coming down. Still a very high number, but they are coming down due to production issues that we're having this year. And so they're lowering their production number and in turn lowering the stocks number. And the same with corn. We did have some of the stocks go down there as well. We did have some corn purchases over the last week and beans as well from China. So those are also helping bolster the numbers up. But now we're going to start looking for yield reports from the Midwest, see what this crop really looks like, and we'll go forward from there.
Another double-digit gain in the soybean market today. November beans up 13.5, $9.19.5. January soybeans up 13 cents, $9.32.5. The corn market finished higher. December corn up 4.5, $3.92.5. March corn up 5 cents, $4.04.5. July wheat up 3.5 cents at $5.14.25. Rough rice put in a lower close today. November rice down 14.5, $11.87. January rice down 14 cents, $12.10.5. November sugar up 12, $25.87. Now with a look at the cotton market, here's Don Molino.
Cotton futures slightly higher on Tuesday. Crop progress data released on Monday afternoon showed 77% of the U.S. cotton crop at bolls opening. The Cotton Index up 65 points on September 30th at 71.80 a pound. The average world price for this week is $53.19 a pound. That's good through tomorrow. Tuesday afternoon, new crop December cotton 60.98 up 15. March 61.66 up 11. The spot market price, $60.98, up 15. I'm Don Molino on the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast.
Fed cattle show lists are larger this week following a smaller sales volume last week. The slaughter last week at 648,000 head fell short of the previous week, which was 658,000. But it's still sufficient to work off peak supplies of fed cattle. October will begin to taper off from peak supplies. This is a time period when beef demand can improve with more moderate weather in much of the country. The feedlots are asking higher money this week. On the futures market, we saw mixed prices with October live cattle up 5 cents, $104.62. The December contract down 47, $109.82. Feeder cattle were lower. October down $1.42 at $140.97. November feeders down $1.75, $140.17. The 2019 Louisiana crop harvest continues here as we get into October. We'll get an update from Northwest Louisiana when we visit with Ryan Kirby of Caddo Parish. That's coming up next on the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast.
It's a well-known fact that here in Louisiana, sugarcane is more than just a crop. It's a way of life. It creates more than 16,000 jobs across the state and an additional $3 billion boost to our state's economy. And Louisiana's cane families always give back to the communities where we live, work, and play. Louisiana sugarcane, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
The Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast.
Our guest today is Ryan Kirby. Ryan farms up in the northwest corner of Louisiana in Caddo Parish. Things going all right for you up there today, Ryan?
Yeah, we're doing just fine up here. Thanks.
Ryan, tell us about your farm. How many acres do you farm and in what crops?
Grow cotton, corn, soybeans, and rice. I planted a little bit of row rice this year just to try it out. We picked up another 1,600 acres going into next year. So next year we'll have about 4,400 acres. We'll probably put close to half of it in corn and then split the other half between soybeans and cotton and then just a little bit of that row rice again.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your crop right now. I know that you have had a string of tough weather for the last few years. It's either been too dry at the wrong time, too wet at the wrong time. How has weather treated you here in 2019?
It's been a struggle. Yet again, it's been better than last year was, but we had an extremely wet spring. It was really difficult to get the crops in the ground. Planting season was spread out over a couple months, and it just made everything really difficult to manage. In addition, all the crops as we're getting into them and getting into harvest are not quite yielding as good as we'd hoped. The corn was not as good as we thought it should have been, and we're finding the same thing with cotton and soybeans.
Do you think that had a lot to do with the tough planting season that you had?
I think so. It's just these crops they don't like extremely wet weather when they're young. They can't tolerate it, and so the potential just hadn't been there from the get go.
Well, you mentioned corn. You mind telling me how it yielded this year?
Oh, we were somewhere around that 155 bushel to the acre average. But with the really wet summer that we had and the cool summer that we had up until, through the corn growing season, you would have thought that the ground that can withstand that early rain, the sandier land, you would have thought it would have been yielding through the roof. And it just wasn't. The top end of yields we made anywhere was probably on the order of 200 bushels. But there's not much dirt that did that. Most of our irrigated was 160 to 180.
Well, tell me about the row rice. I've heard of people trying that over in Northeast Louisiana. Did not know that we had some going over in your part of the state. How has that been this year?
It didn't yield quite as good as I'd hoped. Once again, that being said, it was kind of on par with what I was making with patty rice. The only problem is with the row rice, I'm planting hybrid, and with the patty rice, I'm planting conventional, and you're talking about a tremendous difference in production costs. The hybrid seed is so much more expensive. You got to get a yield increase to pay for it. But we're probably around 155, 160 bushels an acre. And I learned some things, and I'm going to give it a whirl next year.
How long have you been growing rice? I did not know you had rice in your crop mix.
We picked up a place in Arkansas 6 years ago, and I let it go this year. So we had it for 5 years, and we planted just a couple hundred acres of rice up there every year, patty rice. And this year was my first go at row rice.
Well, have you put a combine into your soybeans yet?
Yeah, we cut for a day and then shut down for a week, and then cut for a day and shut down for a week because of the planting season. It was strung out over we started planting soybeans in mid-April, and we finished at the very end of May. And we didn't plant a whole lot of beans to begin with this year, but yields have been variable. The black land, as you would expect, as wet as it was, has not been very well. It's, irrigated soybeans cutting 50 to 55 bushels. That ain't going to cut it. But the better ground is doing a lot better. We had some that's cutting up around in the 80s, even some in the 90s.
How's cotton crop looking so far?
I just started picking yesterday. It's some pretty good looking cotton, but it's not yielding as good as it looks. I don't know. I've only picked 20 acres, and too soon to tell, but it doesn't look to be stellar.
What kind of growing season has it had?
In one word, it's been difficult. It's tough to manage. We had to replant a bunch, so when you get spot replanting out in the field, that makes it difficult to manage. We had quite a bit of acreage that threw off a tremendous amount of fruit early, which is unusual to throw fruit off early. It just wasn't fruiting right, and a lot of that cotton looks terrible. And then you got some cotton looks pretty dang good. So it's the good, the bad, and the ugly this year.
We had that tropical storm, that came up through East Texas, and I know you guys got some rain out of that. Did that give you any trouble?
You talking about the one that just happened a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't too bad. We didn't get near as much rain out of it as they were calling for. I think we only got a half inch out of that whole storm. So, it just shut us down for a few days.
So not enough to damage the cotton quality?
No, not at all.
Good. Well, Ryan, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate you giving us the update. That's Ryan Kirby. He farms up in Caddo Parish. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kerry.
That does it for this Tuesday edition of the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast for October 1st of 2019. We'll be back tomorrow, but in the meantime, be sure to connect with us on social media. We're on both Facebook and Twitter. The handle is @VoiceOfLAAg. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Voice of Louisiana Agriculture podcast. This podcast is produced by Kerry Martin and the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. For more information, be sure to check out our website, voiceoflouisianaagriculture.org and lafarmbureau.org.